Hi there, it's Grace from Truly Vintage. I'm going to show you today how I used my scrap offcuts from pages and that to create vintage looking, what I'm going to use is washi tape or vintage looking strips, and all I used was inks and stamps, and yeah, it was really easy, and I got carried away with it after I did these ones, on the strips. I then thought, well, I could use different size scraps, so I had scraps of coffee dyed paper, bits and pieces, and I created some what I think look lovely vintage look pieces of paper. These will go great with my masterboard, I think. And also, it doesn't have to be vintage paper or coffee dyed paper. I had some offcuts of white cardstock that I had done some fussy cutting with, and this is how they turned out, which look pretty cool. So it's really easy, and I'll show you how to do it. So where I get most of these strips from is when I use my vintage books, or any of my books. Sorry, I'm just looking for a ruler that was around here somewhere because I want to tear things. Oh well, we'll use this one. I can't find my tearing ruler. Quite often when I use my vintage books, I tear off the edge and I end up with these pieces. And me being me, I don't throw anything away. As I say, nothing is too small to use. So I get a stack of these. Sorry, just let me move things around here. So as I said, you could use those. I'm going to throw in a few big pieces as well. Let's put that one there. Some cardstock. Okay, and I basically line them up on my paper. Now I've got an old book page as backing, and the main reason I do that is because you're going to get ink everywhere, and this backing piece then turns out to be another good piece to use in itself. And I've just got a magazine here that I'm leaning on. So what you'll need for this creation is some ink. Now I find the best results to get that's sort of like patina. Just try and find one here that's got it, what I'm talking about. Here we go. This like rusty looking patina here is to use Distress Oxide, so I'm using the walnut stain, and we'll also be using ground espresso and vintage photo. Now you don't have to use those colours, obviously, just whatever colour suits your fancy. Now I'm just lining these up to make it a bit easier. There we go. So to begin with, I'll show you what else I'm using, my stamps. So stamps that I'll be using today are Stampers Anonymous Tim Holtz Collection Field Notes, which has some excellent stamps. I'll also be using Creative Expressions Clear Stamp Set, and this one's called Dates from the Past. Some lovely old handwritten fonts there. Now this one I'll be using, I picked this one up on, I think it was Facebook Marketplace. It's by Stampington and Company, and it's called The Notice. So once again, lovely vintage there. And I like to throw a few butterflies in, so this is just an acrylic stamp set that I picked up at, I think it was a dollar store. But like I said, if you don't have those stamps, that doesn't matter. You create with what you have, which is the story behind junk journaling. I think is we use what we have. So what I do is just whack on some of the Distress Oxide walnut stain, putting that like that. Don't need to be neat and tidy. If you give it a twist, you get a bit more on there. this. Okay, now with the Distress Oxide, it reacts when water is added, and I am looking around my desk trying to see, there it is, where I put the water. Actually, you guys are probably in a little bit too close. I might move that up a bit. Whoops, sorry. Okay, now just squirting the water. There we go. You can see there how it blends in. Okay. I think I need to get myself a new water pump. This one keeps sticking. Okay. I don't need to put too much on there. You can see there already. And lovely patina that's coming out there. It looks very rusty. Okay, this one maybe could do with a little bit more, especially up the end here. I haven't put anything on, so I'm just going to whack a little bit more ink up there. Okay, if you have a heat gun, now would be a good time, but I have a dog lying next to me here who goes simply ballistic if I try to get to use my heat gun, so I'm not going to pull it out. Another thing that I like to do, which, like I said, doesn't matter if you don't have these, is I like to use, some watercolour crayons to add a little bit of colour. I just whack in a little bit there, like so. Oops. Then I use a water brush. Could just use a brush dipped in water, but this is one of those pens, and I just blur that in. Just adds a bit of a highlight to them. Okay. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Work's been very, very busy for me lately, hence my absence from my YouTube. But my dream is to actually stop working full time and actually drop down to 3 days a week so I can spend more time doing craft. That's my dream, eventually, hang. Alright, so now I've got a few white spots up here, so what I might do is just add a little bit of this one. Yeah, it doesn't go on quite as well. I think it's a bit too dry. But just filling in with the vintage bookmarks, like, it doesn't matter so much when you're using the paper, the vintage paper. You don't end up with white spots. Okay, so 1, 2, got all that. Now, what I would do if I had strips is just line them up together like that. Okay, I'm going to be a little bit different with this one since it's a different page, and let's start stamping. So first I'm going to use this large one called the Notice, and I find that if you overlap, don't look at like getting a whole stamp onto one piece. Just randomly stamp. You might, I find the Microground Espresso works a bit better. So I'm gonna use some from the field note set. Once again, have it so that it overlaps. I think it's from my graphic design days. I like having images actually exiting the page, if you know what I mean. It sort of gives the impression that the pattern goes on beyond the page. So it's random. Put another one there. This one is just some numbers, once again from the vintage notes. Sorry, field notes. Work those around. There. Always good to add a few different shapes, and I find that the round shape of this stamp here adds a bit like that there. Just adds something a bit different to it over here. So, like I said, use whatever stamps you have that you think would suit. Yeah, I've got a little butterfly here. This one I'll use stamping block because it's only acrylic. It's a little bit floppier. Whoops. Does that happen to you, that the stamps don't? Yeah, what I find is a little bit of water on my stamping block and then put that on, and that tends to stick. So I'm going to add this butterfly a couple of places. Over here. Oops. Put it there. And down here. Put a few of them. Like that. Go there. So, pretty much done. I could say, like that one there I'm happy with, as it is. Could probably leave that one and this one. Okay, those two. These two, now I'm not happy with all the white that's actually showing there, so what I'm going to do is just grab my blender and just rub some colour in on those ones where the white's showing. Actually, I might pull in a different colour. It's still a brown, but my Stampin' Up! Tip Top Taupe. Just a bit of a lighter brown. And just, yeah, it's a bit of a softer one. As you can see, I think it's nearly time for me to purchase some more ink stamps. These Stampin' Up! Ones I've had since I was a scrapbooker, so we're looking at 20 years ago or so. God, that sounds like a long time. And basically that's it. Now I'll just show you some finished results. I'll move these out of the way. After you've done a couple of pages, you'll end up with a lovely sheet that has stamps all over it. So this was one of the previous sheets that I used as a backing sheet, and what I did with that one, just looking around, okay, I used that as backing. This is a masterboard that I created. If you're not familiar with masterboards, check out one of my previous videos, but basically masterboard is a collage of pages stuck onto cardstock. Then I've done the process that we just did today with the inks on top of that, and that's just going to be a little journal cover, and I used the backing piece here just to line the inside. So that's there. Here's here, I'll show you these a little bit better. These were just, as I said, pieces of offcuts of book pages, bits of coffee dyed paper, sorry, that I used. This one I brought in a different colour with green in there, just to be different. Okay, you can see with the book pages, you certainly get a softer colouring, I suppose I'd call it, than you do with the using white cardstock. So that was that one there. These ones here are from some white offcuts. Looks very rusty. I like that, actually. Yeah, I like that. I've got an idea. I'm creating an album for my father about his life, and he used to be a metal worker, and yeah, just looking at that, I'm thinking rusty metal. So that's there. When I was making these things, my partner Dave, who I call my enabler, suggested I use some papers that are textured. So I grabbed some watercolour paper And this one, so this is using watercolor paper because it's 150 GSM, and here you can see where I use the watercolor crayons. I put some orange in there, and you can see how it actually blended in quite well. So it doesn't have to be on scraps, it can be on a whole sheet of paper. Now with that I could cut it in strips and use it like washi tape, or use the whole page as a backdrop. That would make a nice little album cover, a nice little pocket. This one here, pretty much the same as that, but I've just added, I'm not too sure if you can see, I used some of the Kaiser Mist Gold Shimmer Spray on that, and it's just got a lovely glow to that one. So yeah, basically that's another great way to use your scraps. Now I do call myself truly vintage because when I sell my packs I use truly vintage products, which means I wouldn't include anything like this in my packs. But when I create myself, I suppose I break my own rules a little bit. So as you can see, I've got quite a pile of stuff, haven't I? I found this really relaxing. I was sitting in front of the television doing it the other day, and I just kept going, and Dave sort of said to me, so what are you going to do with all this? And it's like, I don't know, but I'm sure I'm going to find something. So I hope you enjoyed that. So feel free to add a comment. I'd really love to hear from you, and if you like this and like to see some of my other videos, please start following me on YouTube. I'm also over on Instagram and Facebook. On Facebook I have a shop called Truly Vintage Ephemera, where I sell packs of vintage pages, vintage paper, on a variety of themes. So yeah, feel free to check us out. Thank you for joining me, and I'll catch you later. Bye.